Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Becoming You podcast. Today's episode is going to be short and sweet. And today I'm going to be talking to you about why I'm moving away from the term gentle parenting and just using the terms conscious parenting or grounded parent more frequently now. And this is all to do with mindset because our words have meaning. The words we use in our daily, spoken language have a lot of stories attached to them. And we have beliefs that are helpful and beliefs that are not so helpful with certain words. And I believe the word gentle has negative connotations, at least when used in the mainstream parenting worlds, with a lot of people that are new to or thinking about becoming a different type of parent. And the word itself can put off a lot of people because they might have certain not so helpful connotations attached to the word gentle. So that's the topic we're going to be diving into today, so that we can really rearrange our mindset. We can really question some of our beliefs and use words that are more empowering. So to give you some context around why am I getting stuck in the semantics of a certain word, I want you to think about affirmations, right? I want you to think about why affirmations for a lot of people are so powerful. And it's one of the first things that we use when we are starting to work on our own personal development and growth. So what do I mean by affirmations? Things like, I am a powerful woman, right? That is an affirmation that we are working towards. An affirmation is something that you want to start believing because you believe it's going to make you a stronger, smarter, empowered person, right? So if you are someone who's constantly saying, I'm so terrible, right? That's like a common phrase that we use without like even being conscious of it. I'm so terrible when we've made a mistake can feel humorous. And you might be like, oh my God, I just say that as a joke. But when you really examine words closely, it is actually a disempowering statement. I am so terrible. That is actually said as a defensive mechanism so that before others can even think of us as terrible, we put that thought out there so that it won't hurt as much when someone else has the same thought or says the same thing to us. And then we can laugh it off as a joke and not really letting those words sink in and examine the potential truths of it. And all of this is done to protect us from like looking at our own fears, right? Like if you have a fear that you are terrible, but instead of looking at it as a fear, if you just laughed it off as a joke, it hurts much, much less, right? But it's an insidious habit because when you say I'm terrible over and over and over, you start to look for subtle ways and obvious ways to confirm those words and therefore that belief. So you start to look for people that confirm that belief. You start to put yourself in situations to confirm that belief. You start to act in ways to confirm that belief and keep that belief alive, because the human brain, when it's convinced that something is true, will fight to its death to keep that truth alive. Humans do not like being proven wrong. Even when the truth hurts, we like to hold on to that truth, and we don't like to be proven wrong. So this is why affirmations are so powerful. When we start to realize that there are things that we tell ourselves that is not helpful, we start to form affirmations. We start to write things that we want to believe and the truths that we want to step into. So things like, I am beautiful, I am capable, I am capable of accomplishing whatever I set my heart into, right? Things like that, when we first write it out, can feel too good to be true. But over time, just like saying things like I'm terrible comes so offhand and so easy to us, and it's so believable, and it's always been true, right? Those are all things that we think. So too can affirmations become like that as well, right? I am confident. I'm capable of doing things. Like I totally believe in those things, that I'm confident, I believe in myself, I'm capable. There is no shred of um unbelievability in those sentences when I say it today as compared to when I said it like 8 years ago, right? 8 years ago, they were just empty words that I would say, and maybe the person hearing it might believe it because I was really good at faking those things and even faking myself into believing those were true about me. But deep down, if you were to just peel away a few layers, I knew for a fact that I didn't believe them, that there were parts of me that felt like, ugh, I'm not quite there to be fully confident, or all of this stuff needs to happen for me to embody confidence. So I went on a really long winded explanation to talk about today's episode of why it's really important. The words that we use around parenting can really impact how you parent. So if you've been hearing the word gentle parenting for a long time, either from me and listening to this podcast or other trainings you've done, you might still be somewhat hesitant, or maybe you have some negative feelings towards it, and there's still some hesitation for you to fully step into that role as a gentle parent. And part of that reason could be the very fact that you're using the word gentle parent or gentle parenting. So we're going to dig deeper into that. So the words gentle are used around parenting, maybe has the connotation that you should always be gentle with your child, right? That might mean that you are soft, or that you're letting your child get away with behavior that's not helpful to them or to you as a family, right? The word gentle definitely has the connotation that you need to be gentle around your child all the time. And that seems like such an impossible, overwhelming task, right? Like, yes, we want to be gentle around our kids all the time, but first, who has the patience? Two, I fly off the handle sometimes and I can't always be gentle. And it's so hard. It's so hard to maintain a calm, gentle manner when I feel stressed, when I feel overwhelmed, or when my child is acting in a way that doesn't, I don't want to be gentle with them, right? They're not being gentle with me and their words and their actions. They're being really hurtful. And when our child is being really hurtful, there is a very real human instinct that kicks in that makes us want to fight back and defend ourselves and stand up for what we believe is right and how we ought to be treated. So the term gentle only seems to apply when the person interacting with us wants to be gentle with us too. And of course, our children don't care rat's ass about that. So it can feel really discouraging and almost disempowering when we have to be gentle all the time with our kids, which is why I am moving away from that term, right? And gentle might also give off the meaning that you are weak or that it is weak, that as parents, we have now taken on the weaker role and that we're stepping away from a leadership role as parents. That we are the ones taking it all without standing up for ourselves or what we believe in for our family values. So another negative connotation. And I want you to be thinking about how many of this applies to you. Or maybe it's like, as you hear me talk, a light goes on inside of you and you go, oh, that's what's been really like annoying me or getting in the way of me fully believing that this can work for us and our family, that this is what has been in the way of me fully committing to becoming a gentle parent. And it's really to do with words and the meanings that each one of us carry with certain words. So I want to tell you that gentle parenting means none of this. It is not about you being weak. It is not about you being Zen and like a Buddhist monk all the time with your kids. Because it implies that you have to be calm as the parent all the time. Yes, conscious parenting also does invite you to be more calm and less reactionary. We'll get more into that. But I really like the term conscious parenting. I think it is a lot more empowering. I think it is a lot more clarifying into what your role as a parent really means and how your role needs to shift from what you've been doing to what you might be desiring to do. So conscious parenting to me then really means that you are conscious of your mindset, your actions, your words, your emotions, have on your child, how your mindset, your actions, your words, and your own emotions have on your child, and also being conscious of your impact and the power that you hold over your child's life. If you think about it, you are the very lifeline to your child's well being, right? Our children know that we shelter them, that we give them access to all their resources, right? Whether they consciously realize it or not, because you might be like, I give my child everything and they're so ungrateful, right? Which then implies that they don't realize that I provide everything for them. Whether they consciously realize it or not, and they pay gratitude to you or not, or say consciously, thank you for providing everything that I have in my life or not, your child knows that without mom and dad or caregiver, whatever your role might be as a parent, that without them, like I can't survive, right? Imagine like your child gets lost in a grocery store for a couple of minutes and loses sight of you. That child becomes terrified that they have lost you forever, right? And they go into survival mode. That is the kind of power that you hold over your child. So on a deep level, they innately know the kind of power that you have over them, that you are their very lifeline. So when you have that kind of power and authority over someone, we have to become really conscious of how you handle that kind of power and responsibility, right? If we threaten them and we say, I'm going to take this away, we then have the power to imply that you are a bad person for behaving in this way, and therefore bad people lose things. And this is why natural consequences are so important, right? As opposed to unnatural consequences, where we take away the most important thing in our child's life because we know it holds so much power. That is an unfair play on power, right? And again, conscious parenting is about the first step is about being conscious. It's not always about making the change right away, but it's about conscious awareness of when I say this, it impacts my child this way. Or it's being conscious of the amount of power that you have in your child's life and using that in a respectful, responsible way, right? Instead of some politician, think of a politician that you do not like that abuse their power, right? How much we despise them because they're abusing their power that they have in government and taking the reins and doing things that they know deep down is not right. And you as a citizen sitting there and feeling powerless to change anything, and you know that they are being completely unfair and someone needs to step in and rein them back, right? How many, at least I'm sure once or twice in your life, you've come across somebody in a leadership role that you just wish you could like tell them, hey, you're taking an unfair advantage of your position, right? And maybe they're not conscious of what they're doing, or maybe they are, but they're refusing to change, right? So that is an extreme example I use to shock you, but to also to make you aware that that's the kind of power that you have over your child, right? So you need to become aware of the power and the responsibility and the influence that you have over your child, which then makes you think twice about how am I showing up for them, right? So when it comes to conscious parenting, when it comes to being a grounded parent, your mindset is number one when it comes to parenting, and your emotional state is another major factor when it comes to parenting, because all of that affects your attitude towards your child. And what I mean by your attitude is what is your ability to believe that they can change, your relationship with them can change, and their attitude and behavior and actions can change, right? I often in recent years, I've started to realize that sometimes we resign ourselves that our spouse will never change, that our kids will never change, or things are always going to be stuck in this way, right? We tend to have like a doomsday outlook on certain situations in our life that have felt stuck and in a repeating pattern, like a repeating loop over and over again, right? And we just resign ourselves, well, this is never going to change. And that sort of mindset is going to affect the language that you use with your kids, the attitude with which you show up to parent them. And if you always expect, not always, but if in certain days of the week or certain behaviors with your kids, if you just assume that they will never change, then the words you use with them and the attitude with which you show up with is going to be very different to if you show up with the belief that your child is capable of change, right? The former, you're going to show up with a very defensive attitude, with a very judgy attitude, right? The latter, where if you believe that your child can change and they're doing their best, then you're going to be showing up with a less judgmental manner, which is you always do this. You are never willing to put in your best. You're always argumentative, right? We go in immediately with a very defensive attitude as well. Our language is very defensive and maybe even attacking. And we send off the vibes to our kids like, what's the point of even trying? Because you're never willing to put in the effort. Imagine how you tackle a problem. I'm not saying your children are problems, but when you are faced with a challenge at work, maybe it's a project that scares you that you've never done before. If you go in with the attitude of, I'm probably not going to do this well, I'm probably going to suck, I'm probably going to fail at this, the amount of effort you put in might be the same, right? Even if your attitude is different, but the result you get will be very different. If you go in with the attitude of, I suck at this is going to be so hard, like I've never been able to succeed in the past, that immediately sets you up to fail. And every step that you take in that project is going to feel extremely exhausting and draining. Whereas if you go in with the attitude of, I'm capable, I can figure this out, right? I know where to get the resources I need, and I can come out on top by doing this, right? This is really going to challenge me. This is going to grow me. If you go in with that attitude for a work project, you're going to show up with a much different attitude. The thing's going to excite you. The thing's going to make you grow. The thing's going to make you sparkle eventually, and you're going to be grateful for it, right? So the attitude towards with which we approach a challenging situation, whether that is parenting, whether that is at work, if we go in with a more positive attitude of, I'm doing my best, my child's doing my best, the way you parent is going to be very different to going in with an attitude of, this sucks, you suck, this is going to be so hard, things are never going to change. So if we use the word conscious parenting, it also means that you are conscious of how your past impacts the way you parent your children. How you parent is always driven by your past events, your past emotional wounds. You're also aware of how do my past emotional wounds, like how am I projecting it into my parenting? You've done the inner work, or you are doing the inner work to realize this is not just my child triggering me, but how my child acts is amplifying unmet emotional wounds within me that I need to look at, that I need to heal, that I need to give more love to. And conscious parenting is also being aware of the fact that the more I work on myself, the better version of me that shows up for my child. So yes, it's about, using certain strategies with your child, etc. But all of that will only work if you have done the work on yourself. So if I was to make every episode of this podcast where I'm just handing you parenting strategy after parenting strategy, right? What to say to your kids, what systems to put in place at your home, right? All of that is necessary, but not as important as working on yourself. Those strategies will only work or won't even work if you do not internally reflect and look at your mindset, look at your emotional wounds, do the inner child work, do the job of learning to regulate your emotions. All of that is internal work. And without that, none of the parenting strategies will work or work long time, or you'll give up very quickly. You have to be the model to your kids. I say this week after week after week. If your family dynamics is not working and it feels like it's starting to break down, relationships are starting to break down, communication is starting to break down, it's not about pointing fingers and saying it's all because of my children. It's really about turning that finger back towards yourself, not in a blaming and shaming way, but asking yourself, what can I do? What is a change that I need to embody? Because our kids are a reflection of what's going on with us internally. And all they are doing is amplifying where the emotional wounds are within us. What are our unmet needs, right? And how can we fulfill them? Because our kids are yelling and screaming and fighting with us because they have their own unmet needs and they don't know how to communicate that, right? Especially our younger children. They don't have the framework and the structure in place to tell us, hey, I feel like you're not paying me enough attention right now. I'm not getting enough you and me time. They don't know how to say that, or maybe they do, they're aware of it, but they're fearful of saying it out loud because they're fearful that they might be rejected, right? So they don't have the words and the modeling to show them how to be vulnerable to get those needs met because you have never modeled it, right? Well, you've never stepped in and say, you know what? Like, I'm not getting my needs met. I'm not getting my quiet time. So I need to step away right now and take care of myself. If you have done that a few hundred times in your family, then you're going to give power to your children to voice their needs in that way and be vulnerable and ask for what they need. Right? How simple would life be if your child just said, I've just had a really hard day at school today, and I just need time on my own to take care of myself. Instead of coming home and throwing their bags on the floor and picking a fight with you right away. That's how it might be showing up in your life, where your kid just comes home and picks a fight with you, it seems out of the blue for no reason. If we have done the inner work, we can realize, oh, like there's a deeper thing at play here. And the snarky attitude and the meanness is a result of their like needs not being met, which is less stimulation, right? More quiet time, getting in touch with their feelings, helping them feel their pain and talking through it eventually when they're ready to. Right? If we have modeled that, not just on ourselves, right? It always starts with us first, and then practicing with our kids and helping them put language around their deep feelings, etc. This is how conscious parenting works. And being a conscious parent also means that you're aware of how your emotional needs run your programming today and how you seek for them to be met. So, if there is a need for you to like feel loved through words, right? Words of affirmation, where people in your family need to pay attention to you and give you compliments on like the meals you've cooked or how you take care of them, etc. And when you don't get that from your kids or your spouse, like, is there a wound that is being poked at, that destroys your confidence or makes you doubt yourself or makes you feel like no one ever cares about me or what I do and how I contribute to this family, those all feel like absolute truths because that wound is being poked. And then when your child does something that you deem ungrateful, you will personally like run it through your computer programming and say, I am disrespected in this house. Nobody really cares about me. And then you don't really hear the words or the need that they're asking, right? And instead you project onto them the hurt that you are feeling. And this is how miscommunication occurs. You project their wounds onto them, they project their wounds onto you, and the wounds are communicating with each other as opposed to the higher self version of each of you. So conscious parenting is really becoming aware of when I'm hurt or when I feel hurt, it's really my emotional programming that's running in the background, and I'm projecting my fears onto this conversation and to my child. And I really need to take a step back and figure out what is the actual truth here and what are the stories that are running me. It's a much, much deeper level of consciousness and thought where you start to separate your ego from your higher self. And that's also what conscious parenting is about. And simple things like your lack of sleep, lack of hydration, lack of proper nutrition, right? Or if you're running, your health isn't as great as it could be. All of those things affect your ability to be a conscious, grounded parent. When your needs, your most basic needs, are not met, it's going to be so much harder to be a grounded parent because you don't ultimately feel safe and able to regulate your emotions. Your emotions are heightened when you have lack of sleep, when you don't have proper nutrition, when you are dehydrated, which is why I keep coming back to self-care being so important. Taking care of yourself, knowing what your values are, being very clear on the human that you are and how you want to show up in this life. Working on yourself is the most important factor in being a grounded, conscious parent. Without that, I don't believe like you can be successful at it. And finally, being a grounded parent is learning how to emotionally regulate. I talk about this week after week. Emotional regulation is being aware of what am I feeling in any given moment, and am I able to put a millimeter or a centimeter of distance between what I'm feeling versus who I actually am, knowing and being aware that my emotions are not me. And then do I know how to take care of myself, to go through these emotions, not avoid them, not repress them, not put them away in a box and never deal with them? But do I have the tools in place and the skills in place to navigate and feel these emotions, work through them, release them, and show up as my higher self? Because the more you do that, again, you can help your children navigate it. Because children are pure feeling beings. They are driven by their emotions. They are learning how to navigate this emotional world, and not knowing how to navigate is what makes them lash out. When they feel, huge emotions like anger, disappointment, frustration, anything that presents as a challenge in life where a kid at school was mean to them, right? All of those are emotions that they don't know and they don't like feeling. Right? If you think about it, a lot of times this is the first time they're going out into elementary school after COVID, right? After being sheltered for so many years. They're navigating middle school, they're navigating high school, and a lot of stuff is coming at them each and every single day. And we are not there by their side to navigate that with them. So they come home with a lot of stuff in their baggage of things that they have seen, heard, and therefore felt. And we have to normalize that feeling these feelings are normal. Yes, they feel really heavy to carry. Yes, they are really uncomfortable feelings to feel, but these feelings are one, valid, two, completely normal, and three, you're capable of feeling these feelings instead of avoiding it, right? Through gaming, through like just shutting down, through eating junk food, through eating sugar. Like those are all, maybe not all, but the kids find very innovative ways of avoiding these feelings. And one of those could be fighting with you, right? Being argumentative and denying that they have these feelings, right? But what we really want to embody to our children is your feelings are welcome. They're completely normal and they do not have to control you or scare you. And this is how we talk through it, feel through it, and work through it. That is really what being a conscious and grounded parent is about. Being grounded enough to not only be capable of feeling and working through your own feelings, but you are so grounded that you have the capacity to help your children do the same. And if you're not a grounded parent, you are going to be swept up in the storm with them as opposed to a tree in a storm. Okay. I love that metaphor, by the way. All right, you guys, I hope this episode was super helpful. I would love to hear from you as always. If any of it resonated with you, or what is the one golden nugget that you are taking away from today's episode? If just one or two things that you're taking away and implementing, and just watch your relationship change as you do that with every episode. It's not just about listening. Oh, it's so nice to have this information. You really want to take at least one thing that you learned as a result of today, listening to today and investing 20 to 30 minutes of your time. This is an investment that you have made. How can you have a return on that investment? Is by turning around and asking yourself, what is one thing that I can implement as a result of what I have just learned? And going ahead and doing that, and watch your life transform in a few weeks and in a few months. All right. I love you guys. Take care. I'll see you on the next episode.